Okay, the first thing is to read the manual to see all the options that you have here on the manual. And here on the manual you can see when you are setting up the printer, you need to download the Cura software. If you don't know where the software is, you can click on this link and it will take you to the Cura software download page. Then also you need to download this link that have the material profiles for the Cura, and these are the settings to use to configure the printer on the Cura software. So first let's download the software. If you click on that link, you get to this page and you can download the software from here. After you download the software, you download the other file, this one, the material settings, and you will get the software and you will get the material settings. So first I'm going to open the material settings, and these two files I'm going to put it here because these are the one that I'm going to import into the Cura software. And let's install the software. So I agreed with the settings, the shortcuts. If I want to install the drivers, no. The Visual Studio, yes. The STL, yes. Install. Okie dokie. Now it's installed and I can run the software. Okay, after installing the Cura software, we need to configure the printer and also the material settings. So we load the Cura. After the first time you're running the Cura software, you will get a screen that needs you to input which kind of printer you have. So this is the screen that you get with the Cura software. Get started, disclaimer, agree, next. If you like to share information, next. Okay, we don't have any printer connected. We need to create one printer, so we go to custom, and this is the one that we want, a custom FF printer. We are going to put the name here, Stepcraft 3D printer. Okay, next. Now we have the settings for the printer. If you load the manual, you will see on the manual you have these settings for the printer. You can open the manual, and here are the settings for the Cura printer, for the Stepcraft printer, for the software. So you need to copy these values to the settings window. Here are the values for the printer settings, and these ones are important, the start G code and end G code, and also the extruder settings. So let's do that here on the software. The printer settings here is 210 by 210 by 90, and the shape is rectangular. Origin at center. We want this selected. You can turn on this one if you have a heated bed. This is super important. The flavor needs to be match 3 to be compatible with the UCC-NC. And now the settings here is 25, 25, 25, 25, and the height is 100. We only have one extruder, and now these settings. Okay, we need to copy these values here over here. The parameters that are after the dot and comma are only comments, so you don't need to copy those. You need only the comments. And on the second part, you need to copy the other values here. Now, there is something important on these settings. Maybe it's a typo on the manual, but these settings are not correct. Here, this will move the machine on the e-axis minus 1 millimeter. And this is not correct. We need to move it on the a-axis. So it will retract when it finishes, it will retract the filament just a little bit. After that, we need to move the gantry away from the material. This is only lift 0.5 millimeters away from the material on the z-axis. I like to move it a little further, so I'm going to put here 20 millimeters. That's a little less than an inch. And these settings are okay, and this one, it's also wrong. You need to change this value for A instead of E. And that's it. This is the travel speed that the software is using. So these are the correct settings that you need to put here, not the ones that are on the manual, because there's maybe a typo. Okay, now on the extruder settings, the extruder is 0.4 millimeters. The diameter of the filament is 1.75 millimeters. And that's it. The offset, we don't have any offset. So this is the correct settings that you need to use for the machine settings. Okay, we click next. And that's it. We have the software ready, almost ready to print. Now we need to load the profiles for the materials. If you take a look at the manual here, you can find this file that it will download two files for the Cura. These are the two standard materials to import into the software. These are called profiles. So at the moment we need to import those profiles. Okay, so I download the file and I put it inside a folder. If you're here to the let me see, printer extruder profile, on the settings you have the profiles here, and you go to this option, manage profiles. I think you can do that from here too. Nope. Okay, well, profile, manage profiles. Here on this part you can import those settings. So I'm going to import. I'm going to select where I have my files, and these two files are inside the zip you download from the Stepcraft server. So you select one and press open. Now the file is imported. Now you need to import the second one, the PLA. Open, and you have both of the profiles. These profiles are for the default for printing with the Stepcraft. Okay, so when you are going to print something, you can select the profile from here. Material. Oh no, this is the PLA. Let me open this on full screen. Printer settings, custom. Here is the profile, ABS or PLA for the Stepcraft. These are the correct settings that you need to use to print something. My object, and then I can start to slicing the object. Now, also here on the manual you can find test object. If you go to this link, you can download this object, so you can print this as a test, or if you want to get more interesting projects, you can go to this site on Thingiverse. Thingiverse have a lot of STL files where you can make a lot of very fun and useful objects. For for example, this one, and also this is very important to take in mind that why is different to use a 3D printer than the milling. Many times it's better to use 3D printer because the objects can be very complex. For example, this one. On this one you can see some of the parts here. For example, these holes you cannot mill these holes on the CNC, and that's why it's much better if you make a 3D printer object, 3D printing object out of this. Or for example, these circles here, these ones, you cannot reproduce this on the CNC that easy, and that's why 3D printing it's better on these cases. So if you go to this site on Thingiverse, you can find a lot of very useful objects, and you can have fun with the 3D printer. For example, this one, this small case for batteries to use here on your belt. And okay, now let's do something here with the software, and let's start working. Okay, after setting up the Cura software, let me explain you how to create the G code for 3D printing. Okay, if you see on the screen, you have on this part the printers. It's selected the PH40, the one that we already make. This is the materials. If you click here, you can select the material. Right now it have the generic PLA. Leave it like that because this is the one that we're going to use. And you have several here for different manufacturers. We're using the generic because we don't know the brand of the PLA. And this is the most important part, the profiles. Here we have two profiles, the one that we installed, the ABS and the PLA. And inside the profile you have all the settings you can tune on the 3D printing, from the quality, the infills, the type of material, the speed, the supports. You have a lot of things that you can change here, and this will affect the 3D printing in a lot of ways. So these settings are already set up with this profile when you install it, and if you know what you're doing, you can change this. Otherwise, leave it like this. So let's start with something simple. I'm going to import small cube. If you click the right button, you can rotate the view. If you click the middle button, you can move it up and down, side to side. And if you have a wheel, you can zoom in or zoom out on the object. Okay, so this is just a simple cube. If you touch the cube, you can see here on the lower part the size of the cube. It's 1 inch by 1 inch. It's on millimeters. You can change on this side the rotation of the object, if you wanted to move to a different position. Remember, we set up the printer to be to start printing from the center of the material. So how do you make the G code? It's super simple. After you load the object, you only press this button, slice. It processes the slicing, and that's it. It would take 58 minutes approximately. It requires 2.49 meters of material and 7 grams of filament. And you can click here on the preview or on the bottom, and you can see the object and how it's built. You can see the layers of the object. Here, for example, these are the filament that it's printing, and if you lower this, you can see the actual process and what it's going to do. Oops, sorry, I moved the object. I need to slice it again because I move it. So another cool thing that you can see here is the head, how it's going to print the object and how it's done. So this is something cool. You want to watch it, and you can see how it's built. This little inside these squares are the infill. This part, the 3D printing is not completely solid. It always have these kind of fills. You can make it solid if you like, but it's going to take a lot of time to build it. And the infill, what it does is add supports when you reach the top here. Because if you don't have anything inside, you cannot build this wall out of air. So that's why do you use the infill, and also to reduce material and to make it faster and stronger. You can change the type of infill. This is one of the things that you can change. For example, the quality, the first layer, the width of each line, the thick of the walls. It's 0.4 millimeters here. You can increase that thickness. Here on the shell, sorry, the wall thickness is here. It's 0.8, so you can see two lines, because every line is 0.4 millimeters. It's the extruder thickness. So those are some of the settings that you can change. And well, after you finish doing this, you can save the file. It's going to ask you where you want it. Whoops, my bad. Here. And it's gonna grab the same name as your object, and then it will add G-code, and then you save it. And after you save it, you can load it on UCCNC. But only we wanted to, so you can see the G-code. So there is the G-code. And if you see, you can see how the 3D printing is going to run from the beginning to the end. Okay, that's how you make a 3D object for 3D printing. Now, something a little more different could be a more complex object. So let's say that I want to load a different object, for example this one. This is a bigger object and more complex than the other one. And there is something interesting about this. For example, here, this is on like if it's floating. So because of these are parts that are floating, these parts need one thing called supports. So if I slice this object, and I preview the object, here are the supports. All these parts, they are generated because the 3D printing cannot be done if they don't have the surface to stand, and that's why it generates these supports. After finished printing, you can break these supports. They are specially made to be break, and that's how you print this kind of objects. So if you take a look at how it's built, You can see the supports are hollow, and they are used for that, for supporting the material. These are supports, and when the material start printing here, you can see that it's filled and start building up. After, it doesn't need supports anymore, and it reaches the end. So the supports are super important for this kind of objects. And also you can do the same. You can, after finish, you can save it to a file. Then you can go to the UCCNC and load the new file. It's going to take a little because it's huge. And there you go. You cannot see it very well. You can see the red lines that are fast movements on the toolpad. But here it is. Okay, so that's how do you generate the G code for the 3D printing. I'm going to 3D print something so you can watch it. On this part of the video, it's how to set up the 3D printer head. And the part that you need is the controller box, the 3D printer head, your filament, the power supply, and the connector. And it's very straightforward and very easy to do it. The printer head, it's supported here on the tool holder. You need to put the Allen screw facing forward because you need to adjust. Okay, after you set up this thing, you need to connect the controller board to the power and to the machine. Now it's super important that when you always connect or disconnect anything from the machine has no power. Super important. Now this is the DB25 connector, and it only have one way to connect it, so you cannot mistake this connector. This side goes here and the other side goes to the back of the machine or the switcher if you have it. So you connect this here. And then you can connect the power supply like this. Then connect the other side to the machine, and that's it. Okay, and the filament holder, it's where you put your filament. Something like this. I can tighten these screws a little. The new PH40 have a slightly different form to put this, but it's similar. The temperature control is here. The other have a different one, more much nicer. But it's basically exactly the same. And now let's put some filament here after connecting the 3D printer to the computer. And I'm gonna put this on the top of the machine so it doesn't block the view. Okay, after setting up the toolpad, we need to set up the 3D printer head. And for this, I already homed the machine and put the gantry here. And I have to turn on the head so it will heat up. Now, to put the filament inside, sometimes the filament don't come out clean the last time you use it, and you need to cut the little point, the little tip, so you have a flat tip on here. Now be careful because this is going to get hot. Inside the head, you can see that there is a pulley that this screw, when you pull it inside, it moves the pulley towards the shaft of the motor that is connected to a gear. Now that gear, with this pulley, it squash the filament, so when the motor moves, it pulls down the filament. If you have a roll of filament, sometimes it could make the filament to curve. So be careful with that, because if the filament is not straight, I'm trying to straighten it up, and you put the filament, or try to put the filament like this, curved, is not going to fit inside the hole. So it needs to be perpendicular to the pulley, so it will fit inside. That's why I'm trying to straight up the filament. Okay, remember, if you touch this is hot and you can burn, so be careful with that. I'm going to put the filament, I'm doing this so you can see it. I'm going to put the filament inside here, between the pulley and the gear. So right now I can see that it's inside the hole, and if you see, this is loose. So if I press this a little bit, you can see that the filament starts flowing from below. Okay, so that means this is okay. Now what I want is to tag this to hold the filament in place and squash it with the gear. So this is how you put the filament inside. Now on this head, I just put this here like this, and I didn't put the support. So I didn't put the support, so you can see how it's done. Now let me do that again, but with the support. This time I'm not gonna show you. Okay, this is what happened if you don't do it correctly. Do you see? That's why the filament is not going in. So I need to put that part again. Okay, now it's inside. Now I need to tighten the screw. Okay, perfect. I can see that it's between the pulley and the gear. Now I can set up the support. Okay, let me tighten the head. There you go. Now to test the filament, I just have to move the A-axis on the UCCNC on the positive direction. I should feel here on top of the support that the filament is moving down. So if you see, the filament is flowing below. So this is what we want. Okay, now to set up the bed, if you have a heated bed, you have to put it here. If you don't have a heated bed, the 3D printer head came with an acrylic sheet that you can put here. What I do is I like to put a screw to hold the bed so it won't move. So I'm gonna put just a screw here to hold the bed in place, like this. We don't need a super hard support, it's only for not moving, because the head is going to be on top of the surface. Now, to set up the printer head, you can use the paper procedure, or you can use the tool length sensor method. So I'm going to use this paper because I'm going to add a layer of masking tape here. I'm going to use a paper and I'm going to fold it in two, and then I'm going to find the zero here. So I'm going to move it here, move this down, reduce the feed. Okay, there. Find the zero. So I zero on this point. I'm gonna move up. Then I think the print is going to be about there. So I'm gonna move up the head. So I'm setting the zero on Y again. The C it's already set up, and on the top of the surface I'm gonna put a layer of painter's tape. Because I want to print on top of this. So this is one. And this is them. Second. Okay, perfect. Now I have my surface ready to print. I'm gonna lower the gantry, and there. Okay, from there I'm going to load the G code that I already made. I'm going to start with the small cube, and then I'm going to print something more complex. Okay, now we're going to see about the settings for a more complex object than the other two that we already print. And we're going to have to change a few of the settings. You're going to see that we are not going to change a lot of the settings, so mostly the default settings are almost ready. Okay, so we open now this file, this one, and if you see, this is a more complex object than the other ones. Now, this object is printed from a single file, and if you see here, it has a small tolerance about the size, because these have moving components. So when you take out this from the printer, it will move. Maybe you need to take out a few remnants of the filament, but mostly you don't have to do anything with this. Just take it out from the machine and it will move. So to print this file, we need to consider a few things. We have to increase the resolution of the printing, and also we need to change the support settings, because this part doesn't need any support. If you put supports here on some of these parts that are floating on the center, they're going to melt with the support. So we don't want that. We want the model to be completely free. So we take out the settings for the PLA Stepcraft, and we are going to change them, and we're going to save these settings as a new file. So the first thing that we need to change is the quality. If you see the layer height, it's 0.2 millimeters. Actually, if you go here, let's see what it is. You can check all here. Close there. You can see all the settings now. So here I want to change the resolution. So instead of 0.2, I'm going to put 0.15. Now the line width, it's 0.4. Okay, that's okay. The outline, I want to make the outline a little thicker, so it's going to be 0.8. 0.8. The support of button and fill width, everything is okay. The layer height is 0.3. Now the other thing that we need to change is the shell. Okay. Oh, I think I made a mistake here. Should be 0.4. And we want more lines on the wall, so 3. Instead of making only 2 lines on each of the walls, it's going to make 3 lines. So that's going to make a thicker walls, and it's going to be more harder. The material is going to be more dense. Okay, the skin layers, everything is good here. We don't need to change anything here. And now the support, we don't want supports, so we need to turn off the support here. Okay, the support is off, and basically that's it. Now let me slice the object. Oh, sorry. It says that it's unable to slice the object because it's larger than the bed. If you see, it's just a little bit larger than our settings. So we can go to the printers here, machine settings, and we make this a little bigger. 300 by 300. Sorry. And now it fits inside the bed, so we put slice. I don't recommend you to scale this object because it's specially designed to work with this scale and this tolerance. If you change the scale, it may not work because of the moving parts. Okay, now the slice is done, and you can see the simulation of the object is there, and you can see the layers, how it's printed layer by layer, and that's it. That's how you print this object. You can also get rid of the brim if you like, the lower part, so you don't have any support. I didn't do that. I leave the brim. I just at the end I have to be careful when take out the lower part. But if you have a heated bed, maybe you don't need the brim, so the material is going to have a good support. Because in my case, I have to put the brim so I can have a good support for the printing. Okay, well, basically that's it. This is the way the settings are done for a more complex object. And now I'm going to show you how this is printed. Okay, I hope you find this tutorial interesting, and we'll see you on the next one.